and welcome back. This is Sam Visnic from EndYourBackPainNow.com, and today we have a really good question about sleeping positions and what's best when one has a disc herniation. So, as with any of these cases, it's very important to just briefly recover the mechanics of what's going on. So in previous videos I've discussed what a disc bulge is, or disc herniation. The two terms are pretty interchangeable. And what it really involves is one of these small discs that are in between the vertebrae and the spine, usually moving posterior. So if this was you standing facing that direction, and the disc bulge would be going posterior and usually into one of the nerve roots, which is one of the main causes of pain associated to a disc bulge. So when one has a disc bulge, the movements that should absolutely be avoided is flexion of the spine, which flexion would be a rounding forward. So bending forward, rounding the lower back, increases the pressure on the front side of the disc, thus causing the nuclear material to go backward into the nerve root. So that causes pain when the pressure of the bulge is on the nerve root. Additionally, most motions in the spine, I should say most, all of them, are coupling motions. So in the lumbar spine, when the spine is in a neutral position, side bending and rotation occur simultaneously. So if you side bend your spine to the right, there's going to be some left rotation in the spine, in the lower spine. Now, this is an important thing to understand when we're talking about sleeping positions when one has a disc bulge. So again, I must state that all cases are somewhat specific, and there can be many things going on in the spine which would make some of the things that I'm saying today work or not work depending on your situation. So let's say, for example, that you have a posterior right disc bulge. So what that says is that usually there would be referred pain going down the right side of the buttocks, hamstrings, etc., which would mean that the disc bulge is going to the right, into the nerve root. So the motions that should make this situation worse are flexion, straight on flexion, causing the nuclear fluid to go backward, and also side bending left, because side bending left would cause the nuclear fluid to go to the right. So in this situation, that gives us an idea of what positions we should or should not be sleeping in to assist with the healing process. Now, most of the time I find that people kind of accidentally find the right position to sleep in. The best position to sleep on for a disc bulge, usually, if possible, is to lay face down. Now, I know this is against general recommendations, and why? Pretty much because of the neck. Because when you're laying down face down, you're not going to smother yourself with your head in the pillow, so usually your head is going to be rotated to one side or the other. Now, this can create significant problems, particularly with individuals who already have something going on in their neck as it is, or it can actually spawn new problems with the neck. So unless you have a massage table that has a face cradle in it, do not be napping face down or sleeping face down. But this usually is the best position to get relief in for a disc bulge because it creates extension in the spine, which relieves pressure on the disc. The next best, in my opinion, is to be laying on your back, and potentially with a lumbar support. With some small lumbar support, I'm going to show you a device in a second that works very well for this. But in this position, we can get a little bit of an extension in the spine, which again, flexion is the enemy for a disc bulge, assuming that it's of the posterior variety, which most people's are, and then is going to be a side-lying position. Now, which side-lying position works best? Well, that depends on where the bulge is. So, for example, let's say in our example case that the disc bulge is going to the right, causing pain going down the right leg. So the movements that make it worse are flexion and side bending left. Okay? So the position that we want to be in, we need to be very cautious to make sure that it doesn't make that worse. So as an example of what not to do, if you were laying on your left or on your right side, the spine will fall into left side flexion. So left side flexion, as I said, causes the bulge to move out to the right, which could probably make the disc bulge worse and almost certainly make you hurt more. Okay? So in this position, side bending, laying on your right side, when there's a disc bulge on the right, is likely to make it worse. Now, most of the time, people respond well to having the side that the bulge is on laying with the bulge to the sky. So, if you were laying on your left side, the bulge, now there would be right side flexion in the spine, thus pinching down on the bulge, letting the nuclear fluid go down to the left, which may be the direction that it needs to go in. So usually if there's the side that the bulge is on is the side that needs to face the sky when you're laying down. Okay? Now with that said in mind, again, I have to re-emphasize the point that every condition is slightly different, and in some individuals the disc bulge may be quite large, and even any position laying on the side can make it worse, because even the position that's supposedly a relief position could be pinching the disc and can make the situation worse, thus make you hurt. So the bottom line is that you need to lie in the position that gives you the most relief. Number one choice is going to be, for most people, laying on their back with a little bit of lumbar support, and then choosing the side that works for you. Now, what do we use that's very good as a setup? Because either way you slice it, depending on the bed, of course, that you're using as well, you're going to be in some degree of side flexion. And ladies, you're much more susceptible to this because the pelvis is taller. So from a side perspective, so you're laying on your side, your pelvis is going to be higher off of the bed, thus you're more likely to get a sagging position in the spine, so you're getting some type of lateral flexion. So what we want is, we want to keep the spine into a neutral position, and we want to be able to use a bolster to do so. Now, what I found to be extremely helpful in this situation is a roll that looks like such. This is called a Mckenzie night roll. And Robin Mckenzie is the guy I talk about frequently, the physical therapist who came up with this approach for mechanical treatment of disc bulges. And he recommends a number of things, a lumbar roll that you can use behind your back when you're sitting and at your computer, etc. This night roll is very beneficial and useful because it stops you from going into any position of side bending and holds a little bit of extension when you're sleeping. It's a very simple device, and it basically has like a foamy type of substance in the center, and it's built just with the right amount of thickness. And it has a few ties on the ends, and this is for being able to tie it around your waist. So it ties right around the waist between the rib and the ilium, and you tie this in nice and tightly so that when you're sleeping, if you happen to roll on your side or moving around when you're sleeping, there's a bolster stopping you from going into too much side flexion. When you're laying on your back, you're getting a light extension force. So it's just enough to help bolster the spine to keeping it into neutral position while you're sleeping. So this is a very, very good tool to have for sleeping, especially if you tend to move around a lot unconsciously, or you find yourself waking up in pain because you ended up rolling onto the side that causes you pain. So this can give you a little bit of support. It's very cheap, highly effective, and I definitely recommend it for you. Of course, make sure you check with your healthcare professional before using such devices to make sure that it's right for your condition. So this is Sam Visnic from EndYourBackPainNow.com. Thanks for watching.